Hey everybody, welcome to episode 125 of Tactical Crouch. The crew is back. Kickedtripod, Yiska, and Volamel all here reporting for duty. Get it?
Yep, I saw what you did there.
For duty.
Do you still mute yourself, Joe?
Oh,
Every
yes,
time?
most certainly. Like, I was like kind of jamming out like as the song was going, and you probably thought like, oh, maybe he's warming up to it. No, I just have Eurobeat on the second monitor. So we were just jamming out, running in the 90s, boys.
Joe can't listen to the intro video.
Nope.
Fun thing is, I've got a slight remixed version that I'm hoping to get done in the next
season 2
couple weeks.
I'm here for that, Juice.
What I really want, and I'll listen to this, I want like a full-on like animated like anime intro with the doo-doo pish song. That's what I want.
I would love it.
That would be hilarious.
I would. Animators are like, we're kind of looking into it for where I'm at now. We're kind of looking at like, what would it cost for like an animator to do? Like, what if we just wanted to do like a really sick like anime? Like, did you see the new Billie Eilish music video? Animation on it is really sick. It's like cool. It's super cool. I'm like, how much would it be to just like do one of those? And so, we'll have to see. That'd be fun. We'll have to see. We're looking into it, but
talk to the really patrons, cool. Maybe.
Yeah, there we go. Well, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Quick housekeeping stuff. Follow us on Twitter at @tactical_crouch. If you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/tacticalcrouch or leave a sub right here at twitch.tv/kickedtripod, where we record every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon Pacific time. Come hang out, say hi, and appreciate you. Big thank you to our patron producers. Battlecrab Pin, Lotion, Charlie L, Audio Compass, Porkchop, Sammy, Kosh67, Coochie Kopi, Shara, Nathan, Your Misery, Hunter Tane, Refined Bean, Rex Zane, Roger B, Fabled Steven, Owen, Chris R34444, Yiska is holding me hostage, please send help. I'm under Yiska's desk, please send help. Yiska says, Fishers, Frisha, Fish. Thanks so much for supporting the show. Appreciate you all a ton.
That might be a question you answered last week, but I'm just going to ask it on air. Have we heard anything from Partner?
No, so we have not heard anything about Partner. We dropped a little bit below the 75 concurrent viewers we need, so we need to have really strong numbers this week. Last time it took them almost 7 weeks to get back to us. We're on week number 3, so
hopefully
it's a little bit faster.
Like a good thing. They're like really looking at us like, I
so
don't know about
anything
these
we can
three.
do, anything we can do. So yeah. Hopefully we hear back soon. We'd love to. So Partner, I mean, honestly, Partner, the big thing that we'd like Partner for is just because it gives all the viewers transcoding options so that like there's some people right now who are like, I'm on 4G. My stream keeps buffering. Because we stream at like a 5K bitrate. And so like by not having those transcoding options, you would be able to like go down to 360p or whatever really easy. And we would also get a lot more emotes as well, which we know how much you guys like the emotes that we have now. So
they're pretty sick. If you haven't seen them, check out chat.
Blessica did an awesome job on them. So
yeah, they're super cool.
Super happy with them. I kind of want to get like a little cartoon version of like us around the table arguing or something like
like how the comedy podcasts have like their animated like little like highlights where like if somebody says something funny and like it's all animated and like the whole like hyperbolic analogy is like acted out. They're super funny. I'd love to take some of what Yiska has to say and just actually see it realized like
actually have
that would be a real true sight into the mind of the one of the most colorful people in Overwatch esports. So that'd be fun.
we'd have to find an animator that does ayahuasca with me, though. In that case,
most certainly, just fractals everywhere. Everything is fractals. The machine elves come out of the woodwork.
Yeah, machine elves.
Yeah,
is that a thing?
Wasn't that who's like the big like what do they call them? Rocketeers. Who's like I can't think of the guy.
Conspiracy
Did LSD?
theory?
No, not conspiracy theorist. No. Adult. I keep wanting to say
shaman,
but it's not. No, it's not a shaman. You.
All right, stop.
Never mind.
We're done.
Regardless, we're so off track.
Yiska, welcome back. How was your week away? How was your break from Joe and I? Did you miss us?
So yeah, it was a little stressful. I bombed through the speech.
That bad?
Like, I mean, from my perception, I skillfully dodged saying the punchlines in like 3 good jokes, which I was kind of upset about. And I don't know, like, yeah, I don't do public speaking a lot, right? So, in general, I mean, it was 100 people in the room, which is, by the way, completely legal in German before I get the COVID things. You can't do 150 here. But
I mean, I can tell you about what's legal here. Doesn't mean it's safe, yo. Don't mean it's safe, yo. You're going back to school in a week and a half. Let's go.
Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. There were some practices during that wedding where I was just like, yeah, dude, like, so have you ever seen this wedding
Oh,
game
yeah, you were saying
where you
what
put
is
like
that?
a string through the rows of people, and then the ring has to travel through the rows, like everyone has
metaphor.
Okay, dude, get your mind out of the gutter, Jesus Christ.
But I was thinking a joke.
So everyone touches that ring, therefore. So if there was one guy in there, we have a super spreader here. Like, I was just like, really, guys? Like, that's what we're doing? I'm just like taking my hand sanitizer out, just going over the ring, like what he's watching. Like,
I've never heard anything remotely like that.
I'm okay with, honestly, I've been thinking, I was even telling Kay, like, I'm okay if like I wear a mask outside. Like, the more I watched, so between watching Contagion and then all of this happening, I'm just like, you know what? Let's just not be exposing our mouths when we don't have to other people. Huh?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm okay with that. I'm sure I'm gonna get some snarky like YouTuber in the chat or YouTube comment where it's gonna be like, you're not allowing yourself to build up a immune system by doing that, and like it's like the opposite, the episode of The Office where everyone walks around and just like coughs into Dwight's face. He's like, I need to help me build up an immune system. So like every time they like cough or sneeze or anything like that, they just like walk by and he's like, ah. Anyways, that's a gross way to start the show. Welcome back, chat. Good to see you all. The crew's all here. Joe might need to leave to go throw up or something. I don't know. He looked kind of disgusted.
I was just thinking of different titles to add to the show, like episode 125. Yiska spits in our mouths. You know, just that's where my mind went.
Could you imagine the
just
SNL?
If we really want to build up an immune system, let me get a German.
The Corona rings.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. Jeez. All right. Chat, we've got a lot to talk about. I think the big thing that we didn't actually get to discuss this because this happened shortly after our podcast. But Dallas Fuel has cleaned, I wouldn't say cleaned house, but they did some housekeeping.
Quite a bit.
Arrow gone. Tickety gone, which we did announce there. Arrow wasn't gone before, which I think is kind of the big one. On that, Yiska, how do you feel?
Yeah, we didn't even get your like decay take.
Yeah, we didn't get your decay take.
I heard through the grapevine.
We need the Tickety one. We need to just break it down for us. Let's get back up. Oh yeah, Harry Hook gone too. So the last NV player.
Yeah, I'm not going to mourn him. He would have gotten some mourning from me before the stuff he did. You're gone, dude. Like,
yeah, you can't be.
Oh, that's right, dude.
Ass.
I actually totally missed that. So I need to apologize because I feel like I approached that kind of unempathetically to the situation, which my desk just fell down.
I tried really hard not to laugh as you're like,
John let us down. Like he let the desk down.
That was really funny. Not the time to laugh, but that was really good.
Anyway, so I feel like I approached that because I honestly missed. All I saw was the announcement, and then I like totally forgot about it. And so there was a lot more to that than just like, oh, they decided to go another direction with Harry Hook, or like it's not working out for them. So with all of that said, Yiska, catch us up on your thoughts, your feelings. Get angry for us, whatever you're feeling.
Okay. So I think we got functionally the full story after the symptoms of the full story by what Tickety said in essence.
Yeah.
And I think it was a fair way of framing that situation.
I think that was pretty mature.
I think there must be a give and take. Like, okay.
Yeah, of course.
If it like, I think the pattern. So the news hits, and Hastro tries to put a spin on it because probably he also reasonably assumed that they would be catching flack for it, given their history, right?
How could you not?
Of course, my first gut impression was like, okay, you're framing it that way, my man. Like you're asking to be reported on, basically, by anyone that is sort of in the know or sympathetic to the situation, right? Because there are two sides of that story, of course, and much of it was revealed by Tickety, I think, in terms of like not being able to get on the same page. But you gotta look at Rascal, look at OG to a degree who didn't work out. You gotta look at Decay. You gotta ask yourself what closer is. In those situations, like, that's 4 for 4, my guys. Like, that is a pattern that the finest Bayesian in the world will tell you it is very, very unlikely that you flip the coin 4 times and you got heads 4 times in a row, right? When it is a highly weighted coin towards you not screwing that up because you actually got amazing talent that, among others, won Overwatch League titles. So, like, in that case, right? So, Decay leaves, and I think there's a little bit more to that story still. If that will ever come out, we don't know. Nothing that substantially changes anything about that. I like the spice that the other owners gave towards that situation, saying like, oh yeah, next thingy. By the way, like, maybe that's, I don't know if that's even relevant at this point, but like the accusation of Dallas holding the contract until it was no longer tradable. From my best information, that is absolutely not true. And the way Hastra has portrayed himself to be a player's first manager to a fault also has me think that wasn't wasn't the case. Because if we're looking at patterns in that regard, we also have to look at other patterns. Fair enough, that same thing happened to Rascal, but like in all other cases, it was that, I mean, look at who's still being paid by Envy.
Sure,
right?
100%.
Like that's
I appreciate the community for like coming to the player's defense. Like, how could you do this? Like, you're potentially ruining one of the best players' careers by not allowing him to be traded. It's just one of those coincidences that I think you rightly can have speculation and be like, you better not have. But, you know, I think the track record speaks for itself, and, you know, to Yiska's credit, it sounds like he did. So,
yeah. So that happens. Tickety, that's the thing. Okay, you guys remember the episode beforehand, right? Where it said there are patterns in Dallas where I think that their performance will improve.
Mm-hmm.
That was word was already on the street. What Fuel is saying there for like the players were informed on that day is, to my knowledge, not true.
Well, it was the players and the staff. They were the Fuel put it out that the players and the staff were informed like today.
Or maybe it's some technicality of like I'm not saying
no. I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you that it was like this is weird because
yeah. So Young being head coach, like, or I don't know what the role, whatever. Like, I just knew what in fact was happening, and I thought it would translate fairly quickly. It didn't, mainly because I thought Decay was actually going to play, and he didn't.
Right. Yeah.
Fair enough. Then he's out. Certainly, also, if what Hastra is saying is true, and I haven't had time to follow that up, if he actually didn't show up, that's very possible, by the way, that he didn't. Then that's a problem. That you a type of mentality that you also like. Yeah, you can acknowledge we made mistakes, but now we gotta cut someone out and have them live their best life, right? Yep. So the issue was like, if I had told you guys or hinted stronger towards why that uptick is happening, and Tickety is the first one going, it looks like he's a fall guy, right? Yeah. Or he wasn't, right? So, in general, I think that's the culmination of everything. It's just also like in my mind, I just didn't know how many coaches there still were. Yeah, like there was Arrow, right? There was Yang, there was Vol'jin, there was Tickety. Was there someone else?
I'm gonna pull up their Wikipedia right now. Player manager. No, that's about it. Right now, Yang and Vol'jin are just the interim head coach and the assistant coach. So yeah, you had four member coaching staff, and
now they're two.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's rough for the playoffs, certainly.
Yep. But I also don't think you pull coaching staff before the playoffs if you're not already on like your last legs, where it's like, okay, something's got to work. You two look like you got your head on your shoulders. Run it for the rest of the season. Try your best. Yeah. Try and make playoffs. Try to make a good run. But our heads are already in 2021. That's what I took from all of this fuel.
And I also like the important thing for fuel is the following: don't make rash decisions. There's so much volatility in the system. Like, we don't know what's happening with Overwatch 2 in terms of like the off season. First and foremost, you need to start with a team builder, with someone that has a sensible way to build a team that works coherently and also has a good negotiation tactic to get contracts that don't lock you in place, right? While still making it fair for everyone. You need someone with a plan.
Do we want to give like nods to who that could be, but who we'd like to see kind of head up the Dallas rebuild for 2021, if anybody? Do you have any thoughts on that? Because I tried to weave it in last episode with Albert. I'm genuinely impressed with how Albert's done with the Florida Mayhem. I think that Florida, like the Misfit staff, should probably try to keep him. But if there was talks of him leaving, I'd love to see him at Dallas. I think he'd put up a good roster at Dallas.
I mean, even like someone, I thought before Packing signed that deal with Valiant, like they should have approached him already back then, if that was possible in their cards, right?
Yep. I think that's another good one.
I mean, okay. On one hand, I think Dallas Fuel has the funds, or has demonstrated to have the funds to go big.
Oh, certainly. Yeah.
If they don't, I think they have a fine candidate in their organization, which is their former Contenders coach, right? Chu.
Okay, sure.
Who?
I'm not mad at that.
Who always builds very competitive rosters there. I don't know if that's possible. But you got to have someone that can take full charge. Like, at best, I want a strong personality. Someone who's charismatic, who can get people on like even better, like, or if you can't get Parking because he feels comfortable with where he is, maybe get Mike Schwartz. Like, you don't have to have him on the head coach position. You can easily get him on the general manager position, that type of personality, right?
Yep.
Other team builders that I have increasingly gotten to appreciate. I think there's something to be said about Glitch.
Okay, sure.
For Toronto. Yeah. Like, yeah, you can say, okay, you kind of fell into Fusion
I don't
Uni.
think sure, but I don't think you fall into Talon.
You don't fall into Talon, and you don't build so many rosters that remain competitive.
Yeah.
Like,
I think Houston's Academy, GGEA, if they were supposed to play or when they were supposed to play, that roster looked like it was going to do all right. And he was kind of heading that, from my understanding. Like he was definitely involved in some way. I don't know if he built it, but he always kind of finds himself around good rosters. And I don't think he's the type of person to just coast or just like luck into these positions. And again, like if we're going to go full Bayesian, like 4 times is enough to say, hey, there's probably a pattern here, and it's probably not just luck.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's so hard, but right? Like,
sure, yeah.
Maybe just like also have someone that could give you, put confidence in someone who could get you the guy. That's the thing. Like, we're talking about like who watches the gatekeepers? It's once again the question, right?
Do we
who
look at
judges
Tasmo then?
Can gatekeep? I like
if you're heading the project and you have all of these problems and you're supposed to be the project manager, let's say, for the team, and this is what you get time and time again.
Yeah.
I think it's time for a regime change. I think everybody's got to go. You know, I think Young and Vol'jin probably will land on their feet, but again, unless they aren't, I don't know. That's
like I have only, okay, this is, should I even say this? Because this is only secondhand. I haven't read the Tickety article in full. And while I was on a bike, someone read the article to me or summarized it.
Sure.
And it sounded like Tickety was saying that, have you read it? Just so you can.
I like skimmed through it.
Then let me not interpret anything into it otherwise. Okay. But basically, like, as you said, the pattern there of systemic failure. I actually like what people that's a weird one because people think Hastro is the issue. I don't think he is at all, and has proven to be an issue at all. Here's the thing. This guy has been leading that organization as a CEO, doing all kinds of things, but being full-time involved with players, right? While he was sometimes involved, right?
Sure.
Like the failure of Dallas is not necessarily on him if he's just leading the business that is able to pay these, like, as far as I can tell, from a business side of things, Dallas does very well, right? Yeah. Let's not forget 2016 Envy, when he was still more involved in team building, was the most successful sports organization of that year. So yeah, I think in general, like Hastro stepping into a position where he's once again team managing more, he gotta get some guy in with a vision, right? And with a proven vision, like someone like Mike Schwartz is basically what I'm saying.
And those are dimes a dozen, like, are not dimes a dozen, like those are like worth their weight.
Yeah.
Like you don't have a lot of those people that are still around working in those jobs because they've been like promoted up through that like theory. And I always forget the term where like you get promoted past like your expertise and never get to like really master. There you go. Yeah. And there's not a ton of those like good general managers. They usually get promoted up into, you know, brass of some sort. So it's Schwartz would be a good tap, but I don't see Valiant letting him go because is he not like heading up both Immortals for Valorant and Overwatch League?
They both are, right? Like
him and Packing.
Yeah. They're like, I think Mike Schwartz is actually even more general. And then Parking is both general manager and head coach for both Valorant and Overwatch. That's my understanding.
So there's a few things I think I wanted to go back on, but I don't think we have time on around not the Tasmo. Man, why do I always get Tasmo and Hastro mixed up? Yeah, I always get them mixed up on the Hastro stuff because I think some people will think that that we might have gone over like the tweet saying like if Decay doesn't practice, Decay doesn't play, and if Decay doesn't want to play, then we're not going to keep him there. kind of threw them under the bus there. And then multiple people came to Decay's defense on Twitter. Public figures and players came to Decay's defense on Twitter to to defend Decay as a player and their work ethic, and like that seems a little. I think I'd be interested to hear. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that, based on kind of what you're saying with this not really being on Hastro, and also the fact that Hastro is the one who made the decision to put the coaches into the position that they were in, to sign the rosters that they have. Like that, where does that not fall on him?
Yeah, I don't know. That's the thing. Like, I don't know how the responsibilities fly in Dallas. But there's also a thing to be said about a general manager that when they don't get the responsibilities, will remain almost like inert in that role and just basically become like a logistical manager rather than a general manager that takes ownership of the situation. I'm not speculating on what is happening there. I'm just like, hypothetically, if that's the case, then like you just need a strong character. It doesn't work otherwise.
And I'm not trying to say that anything that Yiska has said here is not true, that I don't agree with it at all. I just like I know people will feel like we didn't address the other side of that, even if it was very quickly. So I just wanted to make sure that it's not like we're blind to that at all. I think that there's just a lot. It's definitely not clear cut, is it? It's really difficult. It's really easy, and like I think every time something like this happens, you find people who like take one or two specific public instances and can use that as the ammunition to blanket blame anything negative, regardless of the understanding of how the organization is run, the different factors at play, and we're gonna try to avoid that as much as possible, I think. So
it's a messy situation. Nobody's really happy about it. I'm sure Dallas isn't happy that they're kind of money trade from last season, money in terms of like the value and not necessarily just financially or monetarily. Just like super important trade for them coming into this season kind of fell through. I'm sure Hastro probably isn't like super happy with how the team's been run for the last 3 seasons, how it's performed. Business side of things, maybe he's more pleased with, but it's not a good thing. So both parties probably have some sort of responsibility and fault involved.
Absolutely. But let's go on to some gaming stuff, or not gaming stuff. Let's go on to Countdown Cup stuff, because we do have a lot of matches to take a look. We're going to start in NA. Actually, you know what? We did NA last month, and we ran out of time for Asia, so we're going to do the opposite. We're going to start in Asia. And then we are going to work from there. Asia bracket. I'm getting that timestamp for you, YouTubers. All right. Asia bracket. NYXL versus Guangzhou. Let's start there. NYXL taking it to a map 5 against Guangzhou before they walk away with the win. How was that one for you, Joe?
I think it's nice to see New York finally kind of find their footing, if that makes sense, with the roster, or at least the DPS lineup that I kind of like hinted at. The reason why I was like very skeptical with pushing them forward in the playoffs, or at least for the Countdown Cup, and then obviously within playoffs. I don't think they deserve as much criticism as they're getting. I understand the frustration with this team. It is a frustrating team to try and wrap your head around, but to run around kind of dishing out individual like critiques when we have seen a lot of these players do extremely well feels a bit strong. There's been a lot of takes I've heard from the grapevine. I try to keep my eyes bleached of Reddit as much as possible, but even the strongest vitriol finds its way to me at some point. And to hear like people like Nene and people like Jonak being critiqued and like heavily criticized. It's like, I'm the first to kind of call, you know, hey, maybe it's time to like find somebody else. I don't see what you see. Like this is very divorced from what we've seen throughout the entire season with Nene, with Jonak, with most of this New York roster. Just individually, what happened here? I don't know. It's so difficult to say. Is it like a practice thing where they're splitting up practice? Is it a weird like trying to find a? Where's Mondu? Is he even of age yet? Like he's 18, correct? Why is Libero playing Brig? That's kind of like my like, okay, what's going on with this roster? Why are we seeing so many different pieces change out week by week? I'm kind of over the big narrative of like, oh, well, New York's like just trying in the regular season and then they'll like bring it in playoffs and how that kind of mirrors itself within the monthly tournaments. I think it's sexy. I think it's a cool thing that I hope some team does at some point. I just don't get that feeling with New York right now. It seems like a team that's just trying to find itself and having to like swap in pieces bit by bit. Doesn't seem like they have a cohesive fit. They probably don't have a cohesive read on the meta because of that. They still managed to take it close against Charge, who basically were my odds-on favorites to not win the entire Countdown Cup, but to at least be the favorites in this match. When you have talent like Hoxall, Mono, again, a consummate professional throughout his entire career, Jonak, Animo definitely is in my crossfires, but yeah, New York, it's a systemic thing. I don't think it's a player individual like skill thing. This seems something bigger. This is something at the top down. That's the problem.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can still commend them on their recent improvements, but it's like
have they improved? Do you think?
I think so. I think they've picked up some steam, right? Like, here's the thing: New York was on a path to actually getting second in APAC.
Yeah,
like they beat Guangzhou in the important matches where they're direct competitors. I think they beat them back to back now. If I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
See. What do you mean? Back to back? Like just in like repeated matchups? Yeah, I know they beat them in July. Let me look at June.
So they beat them on July 25th, 3-0. Yeah. Then they lost to Shanghai Fair. They beat them again at the Countdown Cup. Like, now they cannot get second slot anymore. But they were on a good path to get there, right? Still, it's like, it's actually staggering how far away now every team seems to be from Shanghai. Oh. Like, yeah, you can catch a lucky meta, and then it can sort of get scary for Shanghai. But like in the majority of cases, I think Shanghai is just clearly the best team in that region. Yep. Like by
if it wasn't clear before, it's clear now. Like, I skimmed through the VOD after the fact because I was like, it is the ass crack of dawn. I'm not staying up any longer. I know this is going to be a 4-0. It was a 4-0. I went to bed. I'll watch the highlights.
Yeah. And it's actually truly impressive for a team to get so far ahead of their competition. Because like you usually don't see that to the degree. Of course, like I will say in such contained small regions, right? Because like there's a limited amount of teams you can scrim against realistically. Yep. So you would think that the trickle down effect of what you can do would sort of like permeate all kinds of teams, and they would take some of your tricks and whatnot. That's not happening in that small region. Of course, like we don't know how much Contenders teams are involved. I'm hearing like good things from Contenders teams as well. But we can say with relative confidence that the amount of teams that are currently scrimming in NA is going to be much larger. Like that's in the Overwatch League scrim
bubble
universe,
kind of. Yeah. That's kind of an interesting thing, and I kind of want to explore that, like, in a weird way. Because is it do you wonder So that framework of being able to kind of like be this top team and like scrim other top teams in, you know, APAC, that should be able to like kind of spread some of the knowledge a little bit more evenly. Does that change knowing that the knowledge gets changed every 2 weeks?
I suppose, but then you should also be able to catch up quicker, right? Like it shouldn't, like nobody should be 26-2 if everything is resetting so hardcore. That's, by the way, I'll straight up admit, I remember having like maybe the people that I called out back in the day will still remember this. I didn't think it was possible to be this dominant. Yeah. I thought it was legitimately going to be that 0 teams are going to sit at 80% plus win rate in hero pools. And that's quite obviously with Fusion, Shock, and Dragons not the case. And it was actually possible to have the fundamental aspects of it and to be as adjustable as to be the dominant teams across many different metas.
So let me throw this at you then, and this is like a weird like math hypothetical that I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing a question out there. Do you think that your idea of no team being able to like breach 80% win rate like they did last season is due to like the division split up? Like if you had teams like New York, Guangzhou, Shanghai in NA playing against the top NA teams, do they just trade amongst each other and fall around the 60% and just like topple everybody else, but still like just kind of trade in their own bubble?
Well, I think the stronger signal there is to say, is there a team that's very good and has a very easy travel schedule? That would have probably been the more interesting part, right? Like we wouldn't have had the equal opportunity for everyone. What we would have is a very good team getting shafted by great travel burdens, and therefore us actually never realizing how great they are, the fundamental level of coaching and whatnot, because they're just making the best out of it. And then one team actually, like I think Guangzhou would have had more homestands, right? I would have had to look.
It's been so long since I've bothered looking at the travel schedule.
But for instance, I could easily see like a team like the Justice gaining from that and becoming like a Toronto-esque team at the very least, in terms of like performance over the season. But like, yeah, I think what you, in general, if you're asking, okay, let's take travel out of the equation. Yeah, I think like you would probably at the tails, you would still have like 1 or 2 teams that are like this.
But do you think they break 80 though? Maybe they get like near like 70, high 70s. Okay. So,
I mean, it depends on the distribution. Like that. Then we are also asking, are they play Pacific or like Atlantic? Because, like for instance, the reason why Charge can't break 80% is because they have to play Shanghai 3 or 4 times, right?
100%. What I'm saying is that like if we were to go back before COVID, before the hard and fast regional splits, like we obviously still would have regional play, but you'd have a lot more inter-regional play as well.
Yeah.
You'd be able to play some of the weaker teams in NA during your tour. The NA teams would go to, you know, Asia and China and Korea and play some of the weaker and relatively stronger teams there as well. So there's a lot going into that. I guess I kind of see ground on the travel point, didn't necessarily kind of cross my mind as much that will affect their play. Just looking at like the strength of teams, and if you were to like again kind of LA it, where you had all the teams in one spot, travel wasn't an issue, hero pools weren't an issue, you just have them play, or maybe you give them hero pools, you still get this crazy mix up at the top where nobody's just like clearly beating everyone. You have teams like the Shocks, the Paris, the Dragons, the Charge to an extent that just kind of trade amongst themselves, beat everybody else, but trade games based on the meta at the top, kind of still giving you credit with the 80%. Like I don't think anybody's going to break 80% out of those like 5 teams. And you put them in a bubble and let them scrim. I'd be kind of hard pressed to think that, you know, Shock or Dragons just 100-0 everybody.
Yeah. I mean, fair. Like, it's very hard to play the what if game, right? Like, as we discussed in that episode before I left, like, one pack of wolves can change an entire ecosystem. Sure. That pack of wolves is dragons, and if they also permeate spread their knowledge across many other teams, maybe that helps other people as well. It's really hard to anticipate what would have happened, but I think the underlying point of me saying it wouldn't be possible to be consistently good across many different metas has been thoroughly proven wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, generally speaking, I'd agree.
Well, let's talk about this other match that went close, because let's be honest, the semifinals and finals were not close at all.
Nope.
But there was one, actually, I think two kind of interesting matches here. Hangzhou versus Seoul Dynasty, being one of them, going to a map 5. I can't remember who did any of us actually pick Seoul? I think we all went against Seoul, did we not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least pretty sure. I don't remember my bracket.
Seoul went against Seoul as far as I can tell, so.
Yeah.
How are you a better team and then still lose the series? That's.
What do you say? Is this enough to say mental?
I don't know what it is, and I don't think anyone knows what it is, and I don't think if you were standing 24/7 in their practice room, you would know what it is.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't think the coaches know, and I don't think it's the coach's fault either. Like I'm hearing a lot of flack.
Yeah,
Seoul's direction in terms of like the coaching staff. Maybe some criticism can go their way, but I don't know. I'd really soften the blow when it comes to like coaching, especially this season, if they don't have like a just overly negative track record. Like I think if this is your first kind of experience as a coaching team together, and it's within this season, I don't know. I give a little bit of slack, and I think that Seoul's done okay. Consistency issues, sure, I'd have to agree there, but this can't be easy. This is not a easy way to do it. And sure, you have teams like the Charge, you have teams like Paris that can do it. I don't think that that's necessarily fair to just go, well, the best teams in the world can do it, why can't you? It's like, well, you don't also have the best players. You have good players, and you have one of the best players, but
right,
you also have a new coaching staff.
John, there's a side tension that wants out. Can I let it out?
All right, open it.
Okay. Overwatch League coaching is the best coaching that has ever existed in esports. And I think that transcends actually to the point of even brute force coaching. The things that coaching now seems to do in this, and I'm not, okay, like League of Legends is certainly also a thing that where we have to compete with.
Yeah.
Dude, I cannot believe how much coaching and coachability has impacted how people like land in Valorant.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that it's like important, and I think we do it good here.
Nuts how 10-year veterans are still absolute children when it comes to being teammates.
100%.
When they were like legends of the game. I cannot sit through a game of watching stream play with Fish123. It makes my blood boil. It's like unreal. So like there's the one thing of coaching, but also being like having the coaching that gets into the player, and like them being broken to the idea of coachability, and someone actually knowing better. And it's also like we actually have talent from these nuts games like Brood War, like Rush, for instance, coming in now that we are paying well for coaching, relatively speaking. So we're attracting top talent. Now, we definitely have to. Maybe I shouldn't have said definitely the best coaching.
Yeah, that's where
I'm not sure about League of Legends, but like the vast majority of other esports just get absolutely demolished by our coaching staff. And top it off, if these guys got in there, especially top coaches, they could also do a thing or two to those scenes.
Like, I'd agree with that. I think Overwatch is slept on in terms of how strong the coaches are. I genuinely believe that a lot of the top coaches in our esport would do well. I don't know if they'd win, but I think they'd do well for themselves walking into a new esport.
You ready? I'm going to piss off the old guard.
Okay.
Overwatch League coaches would run on CSGO and take it over within 6 months. What
6 months?
What kind of people are
quick.
getting top tier jobs there, dude? Consistently. Like, okay, this coaching structure is very different because there's usually one guy that somehow is called coach because he has to deal with the egos of like 5 like NA players. But it's like, that wouldn't fly. Can you imagine Krusty walking into an NA scrim? He would break people apart, just like pick them apart, put their souls like into small pieces, give you an IKEA instruction how to put yourself together, and then like come to his practice next week.
I think he's allowed to do that though because he has like the players' respect. Whereas if you just take Krusty and put him in CS, I don't think he has any respect. So I don't think he's allowed to do that. I don't think he has like the same resources.
It's not like he would care about that, right?
I like the premise. I like the premise, right? I like the premise of we do have really great coaches, and I think we do, and I think a part of it though is that Overwatch needs great coaching to be played at the highest level. I believe.
I would agree with that.
And therefore, when players understand that, and coaches understand that, and the game is built around that, I think you create a better ecosystem to facilitate that. I don't know if you just plug in a great coach who can coach a very coach-heavy game around players who chose to play a game that requires coaching to play at the highest level. I don't know if you can do that for a game like Valorant and expect the same results. I honestly don't know. And I don't know enough about CSGO, and I don't know enough about the egos and how big of a deal that is, and how those egos have been expanded because they haven't been coached into moldable yeasty bread dough, and instead they're just these hardened rocks. I don't know how much of that is there, but I would assume that. Or I wouldn't assume, but I would want to know more about, if you bring in Kochi or you bring in Krusty and you have 5 guys who just say, F you, we'll just go to another team where we don't be whatever, they'll probably consider it micromanaging or something. Like I'd be really interested to see that.
Yeah, they're different games. Again, I feel the argument, and I agree with like the general premise. It's just like the wording, the framing, let's say.
It's impossible with forget game fundamentals. It's impossible that personalities like Scream and also, I'm just going to say it, NYXL exist to that extent over a 5-year career in an esport where a coach knows what they're doing. To that extent, and also letting that hang on stream.
Yeah.
Like that's not especially the mismatch in those teams is hilarious to me. Of course, that thing also happens in Overwatch. Let's not get past that, right? Like there's definitely like certain types of people that will have considerable disruption. It's just like it's very much less the case for for teams, especially like Shock, right?
Sure.
Like people, do they realize what kind of personalities are on their team, and it somehow works, and it somehow nothing gets out, and like the reputation of these players that came to that team beforehand, like I'm not sure if that's a controversial thing to say, like. Rascal had issues in the rosters that he touched on. Striker wasn't an easy personality to deal with. Now everyone has their place, and it's probably still crackling under the hood, but we're not getting that information whatsoever. And I doubt it's going on where someone is just like relentlessly dicking on their teammates to the degree
Of
that
course.
is happening there.
Sure. And I think that there is a very easy way out of this argument, for me at least. Shock's the best team. It's very easy to be the best team and not flame your teammates. But you put Striker back on, some weaker teams. You maybe put Violet on a weaker team.
G2 is the best team.
Yeah.
How is that still a thing?
Don't know. I think that, but that's a different ecosystem. Like, I think that's like a very interesting topic that I would love to get into.
Coaching and the influences of it.
Sure.
As soon as they arrive, it's just like egos getting torn apart, my friend. Like,
we'll see if it changes with Valorant. Maybe we could, tackle that question a little bit better with Valorant if South Korea does, pick it up at some point. Hopefully so, because I think they do well at it. But that's a tough one. That's a tough one that I think we'd need like an actual representative to like argue the other side and like really be able to inform it. Like, this is how things are. This is why the way that they are. Like, if you were to try and change that, it would need X amount of time. Like, you wouldn't just be able to like just hard and fast run it. Because I think probably there have been CSGO teams and like tac shooter teams that have been more team focused. They just maybe, I'm going to assume, lack the firepower, lack that star player potential that, teams that are a little bit more okay with strong personalities, let's say, that they get away with. They can get away with, bringing on somebody who might be a little bit of an agitator and will show up on the server and perform extremely well. I wouldn't be able to speak and don't feel the like I'm well versed enough to speak on CSGO's behalf, but I would imagine that has probably tried that. Like, somebody's tried that system and it just doesn't work. I think you need a lot of
someone
people
has tried that system. It's called Astralis, and they've been destroying everything.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. Is that the exception to the rule?
In CS, it is apparently, but like,
right?
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like, could you just take Overwatch systems and apply them to a game like Valorant, to a game like CS? Does that copy and paste? I would imagine it doesn't.
Do you know who we need to talk to? Gunba.
Somebody from CS.
Yeah, talk to Gunba.
Probably would be a good
coaching Immortals right now.
If he has any time at all. Like,
yeah,
yeah, who knows if he has time? But I'm saying, like, that seems like one of the best people right now who are positioned to. I don't know. Or have any other coaches, even tier 2, made the move over to Valorant besides Gunba that you guys can think of? I can't think of any. I bet Gunba was probably.
Is also like a pretty good guy to talk to in that regard. Then again, like the move to. I mean, there's most definitely some coming.
For sure. There's going to be more, but I think Gunba is one of the earliest ones.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So
interesting thought. I wonder if that one gets clipped.
We'll explore that though. That'll be in the pin book. We'll get to that at some point.
That's good. Let's jump over. So at the end of the day, I think the Asia brackets beyond those two games weren't very exciting, and we're not very.
We gotta let the boy, let him gloat, let him give him his platform, let him, be the Chengdu crier, let him go. God. He's gonna hold it over your head if you don't let him. He's gonna be like, well, John, you never let me.
I can just mute him. I can just mute him.
You could do that.
He's got nothing on me. Also remember,
what do you have to say, bud?
This is the same.
That one is me.
This is the same guy who said that the Florida Mayhem were going to beat the.
I mean, we'll get
San
to him.
Francisco Shock. Okay.
We'll get to him. Let him get it. Let us
betting on Chengdu is just betting on a coin flip.
On Russell and Jimmy's.
Like, you guys don't make it easy to pick a strategy. Do I full gloat about Chengdu and then get it back with a Mayhem take, or do I keep it low so the blowout from the Mayhem take is not as great? That's a strategy. No, Joe, how disappointing is it to you that you've been one of the greatest Chengdu stands throughout season 2 and then beginning of season 3, and they clapped London while you were arguing like the little snitch you are while I was gone that was an outrageous take to have.
I
Please
think it
defend
is
yourself.
a little bit weird to say, hey, the team we haven't seen play in this non-hero pool meta that has to rely on Winston is going to play Elsa at main tank and do well.
Well,
Sorry, to
maybe for
me,
you.
that's weird.
Maybe for you.
All right, yeah, you and your ayahuasca and the fractals, yeah, okay, I that tracks.
4-dimensional Overwatch prediction.
Yeah, that's what can I say? We just need to get paste Yiska's face over my Oracle emote and let him run free. Because again,
No, we don't.
I was not.
No, we don't.
I was very close to saying Chengdu was my. Did I say Chengdu make the finals?
No,
I think so.
No.
Yeah, okay.
Because you would have really got it.
Yeah.
Like that's not happening. I mean, again, it's within the realm of possibility, but to vote that confidently to say that they're going to make the grand finals when we haven't seen them play and we're seeing a meta develop in Asia that asks them to play one of their worst heroes seems bizarre to me. Seems very bizarre for anybody to just go, hey, you know what? I think they're going to play us on my tank. Like, that's just weird. And then they didn't do it in the next match. Like,
see, this is where I once again invest in coaching, Joe.
I agree. I think they tried that. Homie's injured. What are you going to do?
No, that they have a new coach.
Sure.
And the new coach kind of made them pop.
Really?
Yeah. The weeks beforehand, did they not?
Again, I think so. To go back to like the lessening of a blow on a coaching staff, there again, I think we have to wait a lot longer before we can give a coaching staff credit. Right? Would you agree?
Sure, but
Chen's been coaching this team for what?
Dude, I said
5
in
weeks?
the first week I knew that what was happening at Dallas, that they were going to instantly
Sure.
prove. I'm not exactly smart about it. Now I'm 50-50 with that take. Well, I guess.
I'm willing to give Chen a lot of credit if I see this continue. If I see Chengdu continuously improve, is this just a good meta for them? Did they find a way to be able to like rope in some and cobble together some form of strategy to make this work? I think is still on the table. That is still a card that I'm waiting to get rid of. I want Chen to be like the savior of Chengdu. That'd be great. I'd love for them to roll into, granted, I guess they won't because their regular season's over, into the playoffs and say, hey, look, we're back on our BS again. We're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Lee finally looks like he showed up, looking absolutely, at least 80% of what I expected him to this season. They have
End of color Hicks.
Come on. Do you still really hold that opinion still?
No.
Okay, thank you. We finally put it to bed, chat. Leave is a genuinely good player, especially in APAC. Like that's not an easy thing to say. But yeah, no, I'm not ready to say that Chen's just making the Hunters great again. Like we haven't seen enough, especially with how crazy
I
this
wouldn't ever say that sentence, but you go ahead, Joe.
I mean, I think there's also the aspect that Albert even talked about on last week's episode about honeymoon periods. I think that could very much be a factor too of like if they are performing well now with some strategical changes, there are honeymoon periods that happen as well, and it's hard to, even if it is a positive coaching change that's happened, it's I think difficult to say that they've totally turned the corner or flipped the switch on that.
Yep. I'd love. I want to see, and it sucks because I want to get more of a read on them before they go into playoffs, and it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. So again, it's going to be hard to like vote to have any confidence in Chengdu going into playoff brackets when we get to those predictions. What do you say about this team? You're going to see a bunch of Soul. You're probably going to see a little bit of Spark. Again, I don't know the exact numbers on how much each team has to play, but I'm pretty sure Soul has a ton of matches to make up. Chengdu doesn't have any. So you're going like a good 4 weeks, hypothetically, without seeing the Hunters play. Can you go into playoffs and like confidently make a prediction that Chen is going to be the savior of this team and might edge out somebody like a Spark, somebody like a Soul? I don't know.
This man still doesn't understand that you do not apply logic in order to predict Chengdu Hunters. You gotta tap into the fourth dimension.
How am I the consistent one here? How am I the one that like is?
How you're the one who's losing on Chengdu bets? Like that's the irrational is rational, Joe. It's a prisoner's dilemma situation.
Seems like it. No, I need more from Hunters before I can be confident, and this is not enough. I think this is a good showing. I think Leave looks great. Keo had a great game. I think Molly's, they have a good support line. What else is doing at main tank? I don't know. Seemed to have worked. Why didn't they do it again? I don't know. Can they play Winston outside of this meta? Beats me. What do you do with this team? This team, again, to your point, rational is irrational, irrational is rational. So
yeah. I like how as soon as we stopped predicting Chengdu inconsistently because they were just consistently bad, is when they started being inconsistently upset.
Yeah.
The old upset Chengdu that they always were.
Joe,
something more on brand.
All I'm telling you is I got the Chengdu against Soul take right by throwing a random number generator number favoring Soul and got Chengdu, predicted Chengdu, got it correct. Then I looked at a game where they played Elsa main tank and said, yeah, that's the game where they're going to crush. Just do whatever you want with those takes. Just go wild.
You didn't know he was going to play Elsa at main tank.
No,
you believed that A-Ting.
No. What I actually believe was they
Spitfire.
weren't going to play meta, if I'm being honest.
Sure, you say that they run cheese, but it and I still think that might have been, or at least something that they probably explored if I had to guess. You know, again, Wrecking Ball does like fit like its own niche, but I think like is analogous to Winston at some point, and something that they've probably tried at some point. It must have scrimmed it. But decided to try Elsa at main tank, and it was enough for London. I don't know. They're a bizarre team, fun team. You never know what you're gonna get, so it's always kind of fun to tune in and see what happens. But yeah, I can't predict them.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to scream into this monster can. Okay, how far will Chengdu Hunters go in the playoffs? Semifinals. There you go.
Oh, semifinals and playoffs.
That's what I'm committing to for.
Hold it.
What has this show become?
Semifinal playoff
That's
Hunters.
just what you just take anything that's in your immediate vicinity, use it to measure the Chengdu Hunters, and you will be correct.
I think you are high on ayahuasca. I think this is just a giant trip. I'm about to rip off my own face and reveal that I am a hunter. I'm a panda, actually, underneath this skin suit.
Yeah.
I think this is just we're just operating in Yiska's mind.
How great is this? If that's the
terrible,
back-to-back prediction.
It's the worst prediction ever.
That's where you say, okay, like when we say, okay, 4 Korean players on Dallas Fuel all not getting along. That's a pattern. Yiska predicting Chengdu right with ridiculous things. That's a pattern. You gotta stay consistent, Joe. You gotta.
Shut up. I hate you.
All right. I'm shutting this down. We're going to NA. It's time for NA talk.
Please get me out.
Please get me out. It is time to talk about the NA brackets, and let's start with the semifinals, the knockouts. No real surprises here. Nope. The Dallas Fuel, I think, was the one that was the most contested in the knockouts. I think Eric and I had the Justice. Hey, it was close, map 5.
It was. And Justice were nearly there. Last play, last sub map.
Okay.
For whatever reason, we decide that we're not going to, return back to what we learned in 2017 and just run on the point and die. We decide to split. Janu takes a hike back to the Dallas Fuel spawn and then presses his Q button. Great ultimate to use.
Because
no, they didn't C9.
I'm going to straight up tell you, I saw the results of that match, looked at the teams that were playing in, thought like, okay, I'm at a wedding. I'm not going to either watch this match or even rewatch this match. Like, I'm probably going to not learn anything of value.
No, it was
my well-being.
Terrible. It was rough both ways. Justice probably should have won that game, but literally botched the last fight they needed to actually win. And they should have rolled into that with Bongo and Flux They were down Flux because Janu decided to 2v6.
Was it actually a bad match?
The definition of bad, definition of good, I suppose.
Was the level of play bad?
Yes.
Okay.
Was bad, yes. Fun, back and forth, invested. Sure, you get invested with some of these games because you're like, God, I hope Dallas, doesn't suck. Because it's Dallas and that's justice. Like, that says a lot.
That's just the thing. Like, I'm looking for signs of life and justice to warrant the current roster strategy that could give me the same pattern that
I don't
Florida
hate
gave me last season.
I do not hate Dallas right now. I think if you were to give Young a little bit more time, because I talked about this with Albert and he kind of pushed back on it, so I didn't know how to think.
Mm-hmm.
But going into this match against the Justice, they were playing very quick. Like, they didn't have like a ton of strategy involved. They were just like, okay, we want to up the tempo. We want to play fast. We want to just go, which leads to Paintbrush just kind of like off in BFE sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
They had some cool things working with Crimzo on their dive comp, but for whatever reason, they decided to stick with the double shield Genji comp that I think they were struggling with, and that's why they were playing so quickly. The one thing that was developed in this meta for this tournament, or not for this tournament, but that is kind of like come out of this meta for this tournament, is this like return to like May Rhine. And I think that would have worked extremely well if Dallas caught wind of that and they practice it. I'm guessing that they weren't privy to some of those scrims, some of those like Shock and Paris games, maybe Philly. I think Philly played quite a lot of this like return to rush. I think Dallas would have done extremely well with that, with what they were showing the week before. I think that's what I wanted them to play, but they were still stuck in like double shield is like the go-to. You only play dive on dive maps. I think this tournament has shown us that there is a little bit more to the dive comp than what we expected. I think they could have not afforded, but I think they could have found a little bit more success with dive. Putting Crimzo on the Ana probably would have done a little better. I don't think his BAP is all that bad, but I think his Ana is just that much better. I think they had a lot of cool things going again the week before with nanoing and nade engages. I thought that was kind of interesting. Again, played into their fast style. I don't hate where Dallas is at right now. I think they're just slightly behind in terms of like reading the meta, but again, there is promise there. Like, credit where credit's due. Like, I'm the cynic sometimes, but when I see promise, I want to give credit. And I think Dallas is on the right track. It's not great. It's rough. I hear you.
Yeah, I don't know how much of that is, again, like the resilience of the players of like, this week sucked. Let's do what we can and turn it around. And then, after a couple weeks of normalizing that, it's just like, okay, now we're back to being behind again. But I generally hope that you're right.
We'll have to see what, did they have makeup games? Do we know?
We do know. Just take a second.
Yeah, if they have makeup games, I hope that continues. But there again, like the hero pool that has just come out is a little all over the place.
The Dallas Fuel have 4 games remaining.
Okay, so that gives them some.
They're 7-10 right now.
I don't want to say makeup. They're like a warm up period for playoffs, but I think I like the roster. I like Doha. Onigod has really grown on me. I think if you were to hide the nameplates and hide like the team colors, I think more people would be a little bit more excitable, a little bit more positive about the Fuel, but I think it's just like the rest of the season kind of clouding them. I think where they're at right now there is a little bit of promise.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. Again, this Justice game was rough. I hear you. It was not good. But I like Dallas in the long stretch in the long stretch more than I like Washington. I like Dallas in the long stretch more than I like Defiant. And that's about it. And yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to give them more credit, but I'm like, Outlaws really, I don't know, maybe. You could argue. Glads. I'm not ready to go that far yet, but we'll revisit this once we get to playoffs.
Only one result in the quarterfinals that I found really interesting here. And I don't even know how much it was interesting as much as it was just notable. And that is the
One map.
So actually, no, it's the Atlanta Reign.
Oh, okay.
Getting completely swept by Florida. Like, again, this is one of those things where the Reign going to fall, right? You see this really kind of decisive Reign against, admittedly, a playing team on the Vancouver Titans. But I don't know. Like, I still expect this to be a team that takes maps off of anybody that's not, I think, Shock, and to a lesser extent, like Philly and Fusion.
Oh, I would have been worried if Florida dropped maps. Like, they should not be struggling against a team like Atlanta. Like, even though, again, you look at that roster and you're like, it's tough to like be as down on them, but yeah, I don't know. With their track record this season, I do not feel confident putting Atlanta. I won't even say even against like the top 4 teams. The top 4 teams are for them as rough. And I get Florida's like 4, but
YouTube did say we undersold the Reign because I don't think any of us had Reign getting out of quarters.
No. I didn't have any team getting out of quarters, or any team out of the top 4.
We had all the higher seeds. Yeah, we had all the high seeds on that. Yeah.
So also Florida was crushing in scrims from what I heard. So it was pretty.
There's the defense. There's the run back on the weird Florida overshock prediction. Yeah. It was the scrims.
So let's talk about that for a second, because Yiska, you walked into the show here. You started gloating about your Chengdu little magical thing, and then you throw this at us last week on this bracket of the Florida Mayhem beating the Shock in semifinals.
And they should have.
Tell us more. Tell us more.
Dude,
tell me more.
Okay,
yeah,
first map they take. Are you going to argue me on the point that they took the map, Joe? Are we denying reality already at that point? Okay.
No, not at all.
Sweet. They should have won the second map, dude. Like, I was bald after the map. Like,
run me through why you think they should have won that map.
Didn't they have? Sorry, that. Let me recollect my thoughts. Because I was bald 2 maps.
Map 2, Eichenwald.
Yeah, and they both had a run through complete, right? And just why, bro? Like, okay. So it was over, dude. Like,
it was over.
I cannot articulate it in any other way than that was Florida's map to lose after the first run through. Or that they even allowed that to go as far. So, okay, it goes 1-1. Fair enough. Hanamura, I'm losing my last 3 pairs. Like, Yaki just randomly forgets dash length. Like, 90 degree, like, looks like at some points where it's like he completely catches onset of position, and then he like controller strafes like his aim past it. I'm just like, I'm so bald right now, dude. Like, and they actually like they run onto point B with 6 minutes and get held, and I'm just like, this is a torture device for me. That's what's happening here.
Yeah, it is a little strange to me that the Shock rather ran as much dive as they did on maps.
Why are they picking these maps, dude? They picked one map where I forget, was it 2CP? Someone fill me in real quick.
2CP like was Hanamura.
LB read the stats to me where it was like Shock was 8-0 on one map. And 1-1 and 3-1 on the other choices, and Mayhem was around equally good, and they just pick that map where they're 8-0 on. Of course, that's meta specific. Oh yeah, 10-0 going into Hanamura, 11-0 now. Yeah, let's just pick Hanamura because we have great point B attacks, which never somehow work. Like, I was bald after that game. It was legitimately so nerve-wracking to see that, especially knowing the steam they went into that match with. And I think also, like, from what Cookie said, that kind of communicated that point. But the thing is, like, as bad as Shock does in scrims, they just turn it up on match day and it's all forgotten. Like, that's the method. I'm not even sure if they're even trying to win scrims. It's just how it is. Like, the league is long, at the end, San Francisco Shock wins. That's how it goes. Unless it's Paris.
Yeah, I mean, hearing that and seeing that Rascal plays like a few maps versus Florida, and then, you know, they decide to run it and call an audible and kind of run that without practice. It's quite wild. But again, I think we get a little bit... I think putting that much stock into scrims kind of run the risk of just like
sure.
discounting the team that is the defending champions on trying to figure that out, and learning from those, you know, the massive, like, okay, like whatever we're doing in practice isn't working, so like how do we fix this? And then like that comes in on game day, and again, with a team at the caliber of the Shock, I trust them to be able to figure that out. Versus a Florida team who, again, is good. Don't get me wrong. It's just, are they good enough to beat the Shock?
Yeah, I mean, and I think they were good enough that day. I think they demonstrated to be good enough to have the potential. They, like, in hindsight, you cannot say they were the favorite to win that map based on the performances that we've seen, or that match, based on the performances that we've seen. But I think they were reasonably close, arguably. I mean, they had close matches against the Shock, but that one felt close in particular, just because, like, a lot of the time it felt like Mayhem beat themselves, more so than Shock just being meticulous about it. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, of course, like, there's not much to say about the final end results. It's just very clearly Shock's map. But yeah, like. Oh, well.
Yeah, sometimes you swing and you miss, you know? Sometimes you just, you know, you make the bold call. I respected it. I thought you were crazy or knew something. And it sounds like you were just a little bit of both. Yeah, I respect somebody, you know, going with whatever. You think it's Florida? Okay, we'll see.
It's also a little cowardly to now say in hindsight. I would have said like 55.
Sure, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't have gotten crazy, right? Like,
yeah. I think it's
in the same way we get the YouTube comments of like, I've been saying that this team would upset, and no one believed me, and there's no record of them saying that at all.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty in large numbers, is that there's always somebody saying something that it just is predicted correct. It's like that one guy who like predicts like the Final Four in the March Madness tournament in NCAA and just gets all like the perfect bracket. It's like, well, if there's enough entrants, somebody's bound to do it. Probably again, not going to be very many people, but that's for us as humans, we're just a fickle bunch
for sure.
But
what else? Just the grand finals then, huh?
I mean, Philly Paris, right?
I could talk about Philly Paris. Let's do it. So go ahead.
For one, kind of upsetting that Philly lost the first map. Otherwise, it would have probably... Yeah, they would have tied the longest winning record in terms of maps with Shock at 18, I think.
Okay. So that's where you're headed.
Who won the first map in the grand finals?
I think it was. Let me double check.
And what Shock ran?
It was Philly. Philly won Busan 2-1.
There you go. They would have taken the record from them in that case, right? So yeah. Otherwise, like, I was sort of confused at some of the comps that Philly were running.
This is what I was talking about with Dallas. Like, for whatever reason, some of these top teams have like Paris. Gone back to May. Yeah, Paris as well. Like, they have returned to the May.
Doomfist stuff on Havana was weird.
Yeah, I don't know why Paris seems big on Doomfist on Havana.
I mean, I know why,
understand.
because Sparkle, but like,
I mean, sure. I think it's a little bit more than just like we have Sparkle. Like, there's got to be a little bit more to it that I think warrants them playing it as much as they do. There are maps that Doomfist is kind of like not homey, but like it has been played in the past on. I think one of the big ones that has drawn people for a loop is like Temple, and it's like, yeah, we've seen Doomfist on that map before. Like, it's pretty reasonable that you have one of the best Doomfists. Doomfist is good here. You can slap them together. Havana's not that. Granted, we haven't had Havana for all that long, but that's not especially point A, point B, or point C rather, not maps or not points that you'd assume Doomfist to be extremely good at. So it is a little bizarre. But yeah, I don't know. It Paris I thought looked good on control. I was ready for like a sit down kind of brawl at like a high level though, not like just messy. Like, I thought this was going to be like a very, very, very good match, and a little disappointed. Little like after control, Paris just kind of like flat off the gas. Did not feel as decisive. Did not feel as fast. Whether that's the reliance on Nano Blade, whether that's the weakness of Exion Sombra, maybe. I don't know. I have to go back through it with a fine tooth comb to kind of like crystallize why it felt as if Paris was like slower, but yeah, just kind of the feeling.
Dude, there was this one play like that ended the series where like point A Havana and Hisu peeks Xe, who doesn't see him from behind, like the way down from, I don't know how you call that, like the high ground, rafters or whatever it is, and then peeks along sidelines, kills Xe, and then there's nobody with range. And at that point, it's like 4 people that have to look at the front line, and he can just like free fire there. And it reminded me of the German, like, which might have been the first aim trainer in competitive shooter history, called Moorhuhn, and it was translated to crazy chicken in English later. Okay. You guys got to look that up. It's basically like you got to shoot chickens, and they cannot shoot back or anything, and you got to do it in a very weird like succession in order to get full points. And that's kind of what that felt like. Like first you have to shoot Xe, and then you got to shoot like the squishies and whoever is like currently not behind the thingy. And he kept missing 1 or 2. I'm like, just like, no, dude, this could be so satisfying. And then just like kill feed goes like 1 pop, 2 pop, 3 pop, 4, and it's just like over. Oh my god, that was so satisfying to see. I'm just like, oh. That it wasn't even like such a mechanical outplay as much as it was like you saw the opening, Xe didn't look at you, you got the perfect angle, and then you just reap the benefits of just like free firing, just like being a little turret and getting to end their dreams in that final or semifinal. Yeah, really satisfying in terms of.
To that point, though, you know, you're talking and highlighting Hisu in a play that sounds like very akin to Carpe. Is that kind of strange to you that we didn't see Carpe?
It's so weird, right? Like, I already thought, like, how weird would it be if Fusion actually won it while Carpe was not the starter for that match? Like, for 3 years, this team has been waiting for a title. By the way, we got to talk about it. They are the Kong team now in Overwatch. That's just what's happening.
I think we need a little bit more.
Really?
I think so. I think I in the past I was always like very quick. Like looking back at like some of the stuff I would say about like Lunatic High, and like they only really got second like twice. So
sure,
like, but
they got second 4 or 5 times now, right?
Philly, I mean, season 1.
Yeah.
Summer Showdown.
No, like they had a final against NYXL in the Stitch.
Oh, true. That's right. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm coming around to the idea. Most certainly, like they're due for like a big win that they just don't have. Again, I think you planted the seed of like Carpe being like the toothless goat, where like, again, one of the best players in the world, nothing really to show for it. No titles, no trophies.
Yeah.
Throughout his entire career, like nothing really. Granted, a lot of people like point towards World Cup, but again, it's not the most competitive tournament. So what can you say? I don't know. Yeah, I would agree. Philly is got some silver blood within them.
Mhm.
Certainly.
Yep.
But
yeah.
Is there a world where, so thinking about it kind of like live while we were watching the games, because it was a little bizarre. Like I ran out to the store to do a little grocery shopping, came back, and I'm like, well, where's Carpe? Like, this is a little bizarre, especially in the finals. And thinking more on it, like, Ivy gives you a lot of flexibility. And it's not to say that Carpe doesn't either, but I wonder if they've kind of, I think Hero Pools, to kind of contextualize, I think Hero Pools is given teams the read that you kind of have to like position your players to do very specific roles within your team to like make sure that they have proper downtime going into, their role, that they can kind of show up, they have it been practiced, and they can execute. I wonder if Hisu and Ivy in particular have been a little bit more flexible and have been given the practice to be more flexible, to say, hey, Ivy can play projectile, does extremely well with it. If you need him to rotate onto a Tracer, Sombra to an extent, maybe even play the May, can do that. Fantastic. Hisu, on the other hand, can take the rest of the hit scan if need be.
Is the argument really Ivy instead of Carpe, or not Carpe instead of Hisu?
I think I do think there is an argument to say that like you could give Carpe like a projectile role, and he probably do extremely well at it, but you have to give him that role, and it doesn't seem like Philly's given him that. So I agree, like the argument really is Hisu or Carpe, for whatever reason. I don't smell any kind of foul play, seems strong, but
no,
I don't. This to me doesn't seem like Carpe's just needs a break. Let's say
it's also real talk. Like,
this seems meta dependent.
We also all want to think that this Countdown Cup mattered a lot. Like, we're now coming towards the season playoffs, and I think a lot of minds are turned towards that. And that's the beauty of this system. Philly can make their season whole by just like winning it here, right? So yeah,
certainly, yeah. Not worried about Philly just yet. I think I need to see a little bit more lack of Carpe, if that makes sense, before the alarm bells start ringing. No pun intended.
Yeah. Any like more specific thoughts on the grand finals from like using that? Because we kind of discussed
Great
about
match.
it there, right?
I think that was one of my favorite matches probably this season. Just it seemed like everybody was firing on all cylinders, at least individually. San Francisco, as again, just from taking what I saw watching it live, felt matched in terms of skill. Alarm, Twilight, tit for tat, just sleeping everybody, nading everything, just playing absolutely out of their minds, like each of them in their respective kind of teams. As dumb as it seems to say, and I don't know, I have an idea of why I think this, but again, I think Philly didn't play as quick. I think San Francisco really took it to them. I think they had a good idea of how and when to be able to punish Philly's like rush comps. And I think Philly were probably the better team if you give them a little bit more time. I like the breadth of their strategy. I think San Francisco hitting Rascal at the right time, great. I don't know if that continues. I don't know if that caught people off guard. They weren't expecting it. Like the game plan was about abusing Shock without a Genji, and now they have a Genji. Does that change things? That can't be easy for Philly's coaching staff to be able to manage. I genuinely side with teams that are a little bit more flexible in terms of their strategy, and I saw that out of Philly. But there was just something missing within this final. When you have to play arguably the best team in the world, and you don't have that spark, and it seems so like just cliche and BSy to say, but there was something missing from Fusion. I don't think they were at full capacity, but again, firing very strong.
You know who was at full capacity and is actually like, if you believe that recency bias has a lot of weight in terms of like getting the MVP vote, like look past no player but Alarm this weekend, just going like, yo guys, I'm not satisfied with Rookie. You're not going to pawn me off with that. I'm sleeping people out of ultimates here like once a map. Give me that.
Here, I'll go through the quick stat list that he just, I think it's important to like contextualize. So for any Alarm fans out there, Alarm has the 3rd highest eliminations per 10 on Ana. He's also earned the 2nd most final blows per 10 minutes, the 4th highest eliminations per 10 minutes, the 5th highest hero damage done, score the 3rd most kills per 10 minutes on Zenyatta. On top of that, Alarm has the 2nd highest final blows per 10 minutes, the 5th highest eliminations per 10 minutes, the 3rd highest hero damage per 10 minutes, and the 3rd most solo kills per 10 minutes on Moira. This kind of echoes itself on Brigitte and then ends with Baptiste.
Yeah. And
top 5.
You may think about like the inaccuracies of those stats in terms of like the context of
sure
who they play against and whatnot.
You can context bash them as much as you want. Like nobody else is doing that.
Yes. Like across the board, this is not like it holds up to the eye test. Like it's quite obviously that this kid is nuts. And let's see if Zen becomes meta with this patch in playoffs. And I wouldn't even take Jonak over Alarm in that situation. Like this kid was a wizard at clutches in contenders, and it wasn't because he was playing contenders. He just has something. Like I think honestly, like as good as everything else is Zen is probably still his best character. Like that, and we will see if that still holds up. And it's like playing Zen and then playing Zen in this meta is a different question, surely. But like, sure. Yeah, like that would actually have me really hype if we got into a Zen meta for some reason.
And I see Violet's name popping up a lot in Twitch chat. And I think, again, a standout performer, especially in this match. My biggest gripe with Violet across his career as like a star player has always been his Ana and a little bit more on his flexibility. That we have seen Shock rotate him out. And I know that people kind of dismiss a lot of that as, oh, they were just styling. No, I think there's something there that Violet is not that team's best Ana player. And I think we're probably going to see that continue. I think he's improved on that hero for sure. I'm not ready to just write him as the best flex support. I think he's 100% within contention. Like you can't argue that. But he doesn't have my vote for that.
Joe. Is he the best flex support on his team?
No.
There you go.
You got Twilight. When you have somebody with the caliber of Twilight that can play all those different heroes and more, historically, on top of doing it now, my vote's Twilight. I don't know.
I think it's fair to disagree. And I think also like
it's a tough call.
You gotta hold Violet's name much higher than you used to last season, for instance.
100%. Yes, I agree.
But I feel like there's another dimension to Twilight where, yes, Violet is a stronger mechanical player. I believe that. Yep. It's also something like about how he carries himself in like high pressure situations, and just like general flexibility certainly is also a thing. Like because like it's very obvious that Violet is someone who just like is a workhorse and gets into these positions and gets that excellent to that excellent level through an unbelievable amount of work. Whereas Twilight, of course, is not slacking or anything. That's not what I'm saying. But like his fundamental understanding of the game allows him to be functional on so many heroes as soon as he picks them up, and then there's not much way to go for him after that. So he inherently, by his understanding of the game, that is just like top tier in Overwatch League. He's just like that. That's like let's be honest. Like that is an embarrassment of riches. That
100%.
like it's ridiculous, right? But
yeah, that's no shame to Violet to say that. I personally think that he's not the best flex support on the team when you put him up against somebody who had my vote for MVP last year, right? Like that's no shame to him. I think Violet is one of the best flex supports in the world. I need a little bit more time with him before I'm more confident in putting him at the top, especially when you have people like Alarm showing up. When you have people, I think Shu's still criminally underrated.
So good.
Like
Shu's another. Like we're really graced with like great flex support.
Flex supports this league is so dense, and then you've got a team like Boston running Yunbong, who I think like on any other team you've got Fielder. Like it's ridiculous how good some of these flex supports are this season. It is absolutely nuts. Yes, like, just stacked. Every team's
half of the league has just a nutter on that position. It's crazy.
It's rough. It sucks that you have to kind of put somebody at the top because again, like everybody's so incredibly talented. I think you could put a lot of like you can interchange these, and I still think like the team, like at least mechanically, probably still performs at a pretty high level. They're that good. But yeah, just thoughts on Violet and Twilight. I just favor Twilight. That's all.
Yep.
But yeah, Shock's pretty good.
Shock's pretty good, chat. In case you didn't know.
Shock's pretty good.
Get your shock stocks. And let's get out of here.
Yeah, they're not going anywhere.
Thanks so much for hanging out this week. Hope you had a ton of fun.
Not as good as Shanghai.
Oh, shut up.
I hope we find how big of a disappointment would it be if that we don't get to see that match this year?
I'd be a little disappointed.
I mean, is that even possible at this point?
I think anything's possible at this point. I'm not ruling it out
until I see already Chengduing it up. It is
until I see it with my eyes. They could cancel. I don't know.
Oh, you mean it like that? I thought you meant one of those teams is not going to make it top two.
No. I definitely think like they're the odds-on favorite to make it to top two, but I think logistically it's like 2020, baby. I don't know.
Yeah. True.
Yep.
I mean, that's true.
I hope so. Don't get me wrong. I don't not want it to happen, but they got it in the cards this year.
Yep, they do. All right, chat. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you had a ton of fun today. No new patrons, but if you do like the show, go to patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. Sign on up there. We've got a game night coming up this month. Would love for you to join us. And a big thank you to our patron producers, Battlecrab Pin Lotion, Charlie L Audio Compass, Porkchop Sammy, Kasha67, Coochie Kopi, Sharpacosm, Datham Your Misery, Hunter Tane, Refined Bean, Rexane, Roger B, Fabled Steven, Owen, Chris R, 34444. Yiska is holding me hostage. Please send help. I'm under Yiska's desk. Please send help. Yiska says, Fishers, fish. Thanks so much. We got some we got some new subs and stuff, don't we, Yiska?
Yes, we do. So Chris R 34444, 1 sub, and Jesus Christ, 5,110 bits plus 5 gifted. Thank you very much. Of course, very generous. Max Sneakerton, thank you for the sub. Okay.
He thinks he's getting caught.
Yes. I'm Big Ounce, by the way. 100 bits. Thank you.
Nothing there.
Captain Beans, thank you for the sub. Leonidas, thank you for the sub. Well, it looks German, so I'm going to pronounce it German. Süde22, 1 sub and 1 gifted. Thank you for those 2. Then Fusselkäfer, which is most definitely German. Thank you for the sub. And then Shumi26, thank you for the sub.
Yeah. Thank you.
Guys.
Woo! Hope you had a ton of fun. Find the show everywhere at tactical_crouch, youtube.com/tacticalcrouch, and definitely stay connected with us. Yiska, we'll have you go first, man, since you weren't on the shows at all last week. Shout outs for the week. Where can people find you?
So today I wrote an idea that we do a lot of thinking and we do a lot of only like indirect expression of emotions that we feel. I feel like that's a misrepresentation of why we watched. So basically, I took to like writing down my feelings and emotions I had throughout watching Countdown Cup. I found I was confused a lot. I found I was in awe a lot. I was excited a lot. I was sometimes angry, and I attached some clips to it. You can find that piece on GG Recon. It's called "What Watching the Countdown Cup Felt Like."
Nice. Joe, what about you? Shoutouts for the week. Where can people find you?
You can find me on the socials everywhere at the usual spaces. That's Volamel and on most internet search browser history links and things. Did an interview with Gladiator's Director of Operations, Brenda Suh. Fantastic interview. I think it's just literally a conversation with somebody who answers a lot of the questions that the Gladiators fans probably have for the team and where they're going in the future. Wrote a piece about Alarm, basically kind of read a lot of the excerpt from it on the show. So check that out. And this week got a little bit of Valorant, got a little bit of Overwatch. We'll talk about it more when it's actually written. So got to get to that today.
Fair enough. As for me, I got a couple questions because I moved the YouTube that used to be youtube.com/Kickedtripod. I kind of moved all my personal stuff off of there, and we just rebranded that to Tactical Crouch. A lot of people asked like where the content was that I was working on, and kind of just decided that I need a little bit more working on me time this year. So doing some other stuff right now. I'm hoping to get back into doing some like more of like the video stuff I really wanted to do, but just a really busy time. And I'm working on some healthier life choices first before I sit down making long videos. So
Yes.
Thanks for everybody who asked about that, though. I really appreciate it. You can find me everywhere at Kickedtripod. Other than that, though, chat, we are out of here. Hope you had a great one.
Can I read us out with one tweet? I just saw a tweet that really frames this episode very well.
All right.
It's from the late, great Terrence McKenna. And there you go. And he talks about ayahuasca, of course. And the tweet is, ayahuasca, the South American visionary wine, unlike the mushroom, does not speak, it shows. Its language is visible, a fractal hieroglyphic surface of intermediate dimensions that contains an endless unfolding of phenomena at level after level into the microphysical realm in which Chengdu Hunters always wins.